and welcome back to 30 Days of Going Inside because we can't go outside. Today is day 20 and we're going to be looking at the word compassion, which is one of my favourite words in the English language. Kindness is when we notice struggle or suffering in ourselves or somebody else. Compassion is when we notice that struggle and are motivated to make a commitment to try and alleviate it. So that's the difference between kindness and compassion. So compassion is actually all about action. It's not just bringing the qualities of warmth and kindness and gentleness, although obviously those qualities are hugely important too. So compassion is not necessarily about me lying in a hot bath eating dark chocolate with candles around. It's actually a process of noticing, an active process of noticing either my own struggling or the struggling of someone else, and actually trying to do something about it to improve the situation. And sometimes that means actually learning to face difficulty rather than doing what we have a tendency to do as humans, which is try and ignore it or try and remove it. And that's why compassion is so incredibly linked to courage, because we need the courage to actually face our fears. We need the courage to actually notice a difficulty and actually take some actions towards alleviating it. It's a little bit like those regulation systems that we were talking about, those 3 emotional states in an earlier video. And today I'm going to look a little bit about mindsets and introduce the compassionate mindset, following on from the wonderful work of Mary Welford and Paul Gilbert. And we're going to revisit those 3 mindsets, but I'm just going to show you an image now, which is kind of like a phone, and I find it really helpful to think that mindsets are a little bit like an app for our smart brain. Okay, for me it's a little bit like when we use a phone, we hold it differently depending on what we want from it. So if I'm taking a photograph with my phone, I'll hold it here. If I'm going for a run, it will be in the pocket in my jacket. If I'm talking on it, I'll do it here. If I'm listening to a podcast, it could be anywhere. So in the same way as that we hold it differently, mindsets are no different than that. They orientate our thinking and our attention. They kind of recruit certain feelings and they make us change our behaviour so that we move towards or away from something or someone. So in some respects, the different mindsets actually turn some functions on and turn some functions off. So I might be in a compassionate mindset, I might be in a competitive mindset, which is our drive, or I might be in a threat mindset. So let's just revisit those for a minute. And we're going to take the threat mindset first. And I just want you to stop and pause and think about walking into a room and somebody giving you a dirty look or giving you a stare and showing displeasure on their face. I just want you to think about where you might, where your attention is. Just think about, what are your thoughts? Do you think there will be some emotions that show up? And do you think there'll be some sensations inside your body? So if I think about that scenario, my attention is going to be on that person's face and I'm not going to pay much attention to anything else. I'm probably thinking, what have I done wrong? Why is this person being so mean? Some of the emotions might be anger. They might be fear too. And the sensations in my body are probably an elevated heart rate and probably my breathing goes a lot more shallow. And now I want you to think for a few seconds as if you're kind of running a marathon, and let's explore competitive mindset. So you're running a marathon, you're coming up towards the end of that long race. I know it feels difficult to imagine these things during a time of COVID, but you're running along that last mile and you're imagining. You've got a little bit of creative imagery going on and you're imagining going through that final finish line. So where do you think your attention is? And what are some of the thoughts that you might have? What are some of the emotions that you might be experiencing? And do you think those emotions will be accompanied by some sensations inside your body? So I'm kind of imagining if I was going to finish this race and I'd worked really hard, I'm going to be paying real attention to probably where I put my feet to make sure that I can actually finish the race. And maybe if I need it, I'll be looking at the expressions of all of those well-wishers along that final mile. I'm probably thinking at that point, come on, you can do this, you can do this. And the emotions might be that exhilaration as adrenaline pumps through my system, and the sensations may well be pain numbness actually, and instead the sensations may be that fear becoming excitement. So again, a racing heart rate and maybe some energy inside my muscles. And then I want you to think about a situation where maybe you've arranged to speak to a friend on Zoom, and you know that this friend has recently been very poorly and is feeling very scared and is in isolation. And you've arranged to do a Zoom chat with her. And as the Zoom call begins, you can see that she's crying softly. And I just want you to think about, where is your attention? What are you focusing on? What are some of the thoughts that might be in your head? Some of the emotions that you might be feeling? And some of the sensations inside your body. This is compassionate mindset. This is where we see somebody else is struggling. Our attention will be on their facial expressions. Our attention will be on trying to make a difference by maybe trying to make eye contact in Zoom to make them feel a little bit safer. We might be thinking, here is a person who is really struggling. Here is a person who is really vulnerable. And the emotions would be compassion and empathy. And the sensations might be a heaviness in our heart and might be a little bit of a racing heartbeat too. So sometimes a different mindset will require focusing on some things and not focusing on others. Or it may well be that we move towards somebody or something or move away from somebody or something. We're still the same person, but our brain is functioning a little bit differently. So compassion, in a nutshell, and the qualities of it, it's an action. It needs a motivation, a commitment to actually seeking to alleviate our own struggle or that of someone else's, using warmth and kindness and strength, and most importantly, courage. And just a reminder that when we talked about the emotional states, the same is true for these emotional mindsets. When we're in one, we're not in the others. So when we're in compassionate mindset, we're not in either threat or in drive, competitive mindset. So it's about caring for ourselves and caring for others, noticing, but most importantly, being willing to open up to difficulty, to have the courage to actually turn to face difficulty rather than avoid it, and to then do something that will make a difference to alleviate its strength. And we're going to explore this a little bit more tomorrow in day 21 when we're going to look at vulnerability. So compassion is so linked to vulnerability in terms of we need to be willing to be vulnerable in order to be able to show ourselves and others real and true compassion. Many thanks and look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Take care. Bye.